Hi everyone. I'm doing a series of different books on plants and growing things and doing some drawing and labeling of the parts of a plant and talking about what kinds of plants grow above the ground and what grows below the ground, and talking about flowers and talking about foods that we eat, vegetables and fruits. So, and then I'm going to be making a fun video of how you eat. We're going to eat a flower. We're going to eat the whole thing, all the parts, and I'm going to tell you what you need to make that and have a video about it. It's going to be super fun. So anyway, but today we're going to read a little bit more about vegetables that we eat. And some of us probably sit there and go, oh, I don't like vegetables, or I only like this, or I only like that. That's okay. We're just going to learn about them, and I'll tell you a secret. When my boys were young, they liked just certain things. They liked carrots dipped in ranch dressing, and they ate some vegetables. But here's what I did. I always made different things because I wanted my boys to experience trying different kinds of foods. So sometimes I would make typical broccoli or green beans for dinner, and they weren't crazy about broccoli at first, but all I said was, you just have to try it. And I would make the broccoli different ways. Sometimes I would steam the broccoli and put butter on it. Sometimes I would roast the broccoli in the oven with olive oil and salt and pepper. Sometimes I would cook it on the stove, like in a stir fry mixed with other vegetables. And that way my boys got to try it different ways. And guess what happened? The more that they tried it, like the first maybe 3 or 4 times that they try something like broccoli or Brussels sprouts, they were like, yeah, we really don't like it. I'd say, okay, but guess what? Eventually, on like the 5th time that they would try something, they would be like, hey, these are really good. So they started to figure out that they liked Brussels sprouts. Their favorite way of having Brussels sprouts was when I would roast them in the oven or saute them in a pan with some olive oil and some bacon bits and some salt and pepper. They loved the Brussels sprouts that way. They loved broccoli when I roasted it in the oven, or sometimes when I put it in a stir fry. So they learned to like different kinds of vegetables when I made them in different ways. So that's a little helpful hint for moms and dads out there too, that I just didn't want to say, well, you don't like broccoli, so I'll never make broccoli. I still make broccoli because I like it. I still make Brussels sprouts because I like it. And eventually my boys, they're 16 and 14, they learn to like different kinds of things that maybe when they're your age, they didn't like so much. And it's okay. You don't have to like everything all the time right now, but you will. The more you try things, maybe you'll discover that you do like them. So we're going to read about some of those vegetables. The Vegetables We Eat by Gail Gibbons. And I love books by Gail Gibbons because she combines sometimes real photos or a lot of detail and realisticness in her illustrations. And she tells us about really cool things. Most of her stories and books are mostly on the nonfiction side. They're giving us information. And this is going to be a book about vegetables. It's kind of a long one. A lot of information. Look at all, did I miss the, I did. I missed the title page. Can you believe it? Sorry. The Vegetables We Eat by Gail Gibbons. Thumbs up for the title page. Good job. Yep, and there's some broccoli right there. Now we can start. Look at all the vegetables. Vegetables are the parts of plants that are grown to be eaten. Most are annuals. Some are perennials. Annuals mean that, I think annuals means that they keep coming back every year, right? Like an apple tree grows apples every year. So that's an annual thing. It grows those apples every year. You don't have to replant a new apple tree all the time to get apples. Perennials means that you do have to replant it, like things like lettuce and tomatoes. You have to replant those all the time in your garden in order to get them. Lots of vegetables in that picture. It is good for us to eat vegetables. They are nutritious and they help keep our bodies strong and healthy. And they're tasty too. So here's a family. Mom is mixing up a salad. Or no, I'm sorry, that's not Mom. I see a mustache there. Silly Mrs. Rutledge. Maybe that's a dad or something. And then someone's chopping up a cucumber and some tomatoes, and they've got carrots and broccoli and some peppers and radishes. Lots of things to put in different kinds of salads. And then they're sitting down to their dinner, and they've got potatoes, and it looks like some peas and carrots on their plate. Yeah, different people eat different kinds of things. And we eat them all we eat vegetables in different ways. We might just have them on a plate. We may mix up some things in a salad. We can make a soup that has vegetables in it. And we can eat them at parties with dip. Vegetables can grow to be different shapes and sizes and colors. Do you recognize all the vegetables on that page? So we have leafy vegetables like lettuce or cabbage. We have bulb types of vegetables like an onion. We have flower vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli. We have root vegetables like maybe this rutabaga or whatever that is. I think it's a rutabaga. We have tuber vegetables like potatoes. They grow under the ground. We have stem vegetables like celery. So the part of the plant that we're eating is actually the stem when we eat celery. Fruit vegetables that actually have seeds inside, like a tomato. And seed vegetables, where we're actually eating the seed part of the plant, like with green beans. Botanists, those are scientists who study plants, group the different kinds of vegetables according to the part of the vegetable that's eaten. There are 8 different groups of vegetables. Wow, that's a lot. I've never really thought about that. Here's some leafy vegetables. We mentioned lettuce and cabbage. Here's all different kinds of lettuces. And when we eat lettuce, we're actually eating the leaf of the vegetable. And we also have, here's cabbage, here's spinach. So when you eat spinach, you're actually eating a leaf. Here's my favorite and my boy's favorite, Brussels sprouts. We're actually eating the leaf part of the plant when we eat them. When we have bulb vegetables, like onions, we've got yellow onions, white onions, red onions, scallions, which are the long, skinny ones, leeks. And here's how they grow. See, they grow kind of under the ground with a little bit poking up, and then they have these long, leafy things that come out of the top. But the part we eat is the actual bulb part. And here's flower buds. So when we eat these, we're actually eating the flower part of the plant. Like when we eat cauliflower, there's how it looks when it's growing. And there's purple cauliflower and what's called cheddar cauliflower because it's the color of cheddar cheese. And here's broccoli and artichokes, if you've ever had artichoke dip that actually has chopped up pieces of artichoke in it. The flower buds of these vegetables are eaten. And here's some root vegetables. Some that you probably have never eaten or tried. Beets, not that popular. I used to not like beets when I was a kid, but now that I'm a grown-up, I like beets once in a while. I don't make them though. I don't like them that much, but I'll eat them if I see them on a salad bar. Let's see, here's some dark red beets, and it grows kind of like the onion grows too. Most of it's in the dirt, and then it has these long leafy things that come out of it. And some other root vegetables. These are some ones that you'll be more familiar with, like carrots. So when you eat carrots, guess what? You're actually eating a root of the carrot plant. So we're actually eating the root part. And there's also radishes. Here's a rutabaga and turnip. They're very similar. I make turnips usually around Thanksgiving. I boil them and then mash them up like I make mashed potatoes, but I put some butter and actually a little maple syrup in with them, and they're kind of tart. But yeah, really interesting. And parsnips, I've never eaten a parsnip. So yeah, those plants grow under the ground. So you have to pull them out in order to harvest them and eat them. And then here's the tuber vegetables, which are pretty much the same as the root vegetables, but they're not considered the roots of the plant. So here's how potatoes grow, and you may not realize that. So you have this long root that grows down into the mound of dirt, and then off of that main root, you have lots of little roots, and then you have the potatoes that grow off of there. Yeah, and that's what you eat. But when you harvest them, you kind of have to dig them out of the ground. They don't just come out. You can't just pull them out usually very easily. You have to dig them out with a shovel. And you could have one big plant that's got lots and lots and lots of potatoes growing on it under the ground. And there's different kinds of potatoes. We have Yukon Gold and red potatoes, regular baking potatoes. Those are the most popular. And there's even purple potatoes. Did you know that? Yeah, and they grow below the ground. And then we have stem vegetables. And they talked about celery. And here's how celery grows. See the roots beneath the ground, and then the stem, and then the leaves and the flowers grow out of the top of the celery. So if you ever buy celery at the store, most of the leaves and flower part has actually been cut off, but you'll see a few little leaves left on there, but you're actually eating the stem part of the celery. And some other stem vegetables, asparagus, you might know that one. And there's different kinds of celeries. And here's something called rhubarb. My grandmother used to make rhubarb pie. She grew rhubarb in her yard. Oh, so good. And then we have a bunch of vegetables that you're going to know that are the fruit vegetables. That means it's a plant that then has flowers, and those flowers turn into a fruit, like the apple tree, right? So we've got tomatoes, and there's all different kinds of tomatoes, plum tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, big beefeater tomatoes, golden yellow tomatoes, and they grow like this, the tomato plant, and the tomatoes grow on the branches. And here's some other ones, cucumbers and eggplant and squash, zucchini, peppers, hot peppers, and one of my class's favorites, pumpkins. We learned about pumpkins. They have a really big, gorgeous yellow or orange colored 5-petal big flower that grows first, and then that flower, if it's pollinated, turns into a pumpkin. We had a lot of fun learning about that. Oh, my pages want to stick. Here we go. And these are some things that will be familiar to you. When you eat these vegetables, you're actually eating what's considered the seed part of the plant. All plants have stems, leaves, most of them have some sort of flower, roots, right? Those are the main parts of the plant. Well, when you eat these types of vegetables, you're eating what's considered to be the seed part of the plant. So if you have green beans, and there's lots of different kinds of beans, pole beans, navy beans, lima beans. I'm not a lima bean fan. I've tried them a lot, and I never got to the point where I could like lima beans. It's like a weird texture thing. That's okay. I like green beans and other kinds of beans, refried beans. And here's how bean plants and seed plants usually grow kind of in a bush. And then on the bush, there'll be flowers, and then those flowers and leaves will grow the beans. The flowers will turn into the bean part. And that's actually the seed. Peas, if you like peas, snow peas, I like those in my stir fry. And a big favorite, I'm sure with a lot of you, is corn. So when you eat corn on the cob or even corn from a can, you're actually eating the seed of the corn plant. How about that? I bet you didn't know that. You're eating seeds. Usually when we're eating seeds, it's something we think of like sunflower seeds, right? And nuts and things like that. That's when we think we're eating seeds. And then also, vegetables can be used to make a lot of other products that we actually use around our house. Like, take for instance the soybean. Soybeans are grown on big farms, especially in the Midwest. And from soybeans, we get so many other things, and you would never guess. Some of them are things we eat, but some of them are things that we use on our house. Things like soybean oil and can be used in cooking. Soy milk, so for people who are allergic to regular cow's milk, they might drink soy milk instead. Some butters and margarines and things we use for cooking, like oils, might come from the soybean. And something else, if you like Chinese food or sushi like I do, soy sauce. Did you know? Those are fermented soybeans, and they create that soy sauce. But did you know that some soybeans are used to make paint? Get out of town. And tofu, so for people who are vegetarians and don't eat meat, they use tofu in their foods instead. It's a good source of protein. But soaps and some cloth and paper and even plastics come from a bean. Kind of interesting, huh? Mind blown. Soybeans are a special seed vegetable, and they're used in many ways. Some are used in food products and some are used in non-food products. And then here it talks about how you grow your own garden. When it gets warm enough, many people enjoy planting, growing, and later harvesting their own vegetables, which is what I'm going to be doing. Most often they buy packets of seeds that have directions. And I've done a little bit of both. Sometimes I get seeds, depending on what I'm planting, or I might go to a nursery or to like Lowe's or Home Depot or one of those places, and you can buy like little mini plants, right, that have already started growing, and then you plant those in your garden if you don't want to wait for the seeds to grow. Just takes longer. You have to have a lot of space, a lot of tools, and a lot of energy to have a garden. This is a nice big garden that they're making. Some people plant starter plants, that's what I was talking about, called seedlings. Most of the time, vegetable seeds or starter plants are planted in straight rows, going across, and that's what they're doing with their garden. You also have to, sometimes if you have a tall plant, like a tomato plant or beans, you have to make these little stands that help kind of hold the plant up. Let's see, they're planting lettuce, peppers, squash, carrots, tomatoes, beans, and something else I can't tell what that is. The garden must be weeded and watered regularly, and the plants begin to grow. Yeah, you don't want weeds in your garden. They'll take up all the nutrients from the soil and the water, and then your plants won't get them. In cities, people might have to grow their vegetables in a container, like a big barrel or a big bin or jug or what they call a planter. Yeah, but even if you live in a city, you might still be able to have a big pot garden. And the vegetables grow and get bigger. The vegetable plants will become bigger until they are ready for harvesting. It depends on what you're planting. Most harvesting takes place in late summer. That's when usually tomatoes start to ripen. But it also depends on your growing season and how early you plant things. The earlier you plant some things, the earlier they might be ready. Lettuce is something that you can pick and it keeps growing and growing and growing. But once it gets too hot, lettuce doesn't like to grow anymore. I'm going to try to grow some lettuce. I don't know if it's going to work out or not. And then when we think about like the vegetables that we eat, that we get from the grocery store, a lot of them are grown on big factory farms where they have acres and acres and acres of land where they're growing as far as your eye can see. And they have special tractors that they use because they're planting so much. And they have special things that water. They have to fertilize the soil and plow the fields and plant everything and use special tractors and equipment. They have big sprinkler systems that they use to water the vegetable plants. And then special things they use for the harvesting at the end of the season when things are ready to be picked. Some things like apples have to be picked by hand or in a special way. But some things like corn, you can use a big machine to help you harvest the corn. Refrigerator trucks haul the vegetables to processing plants or factories where they'll be washed and sorted. Some are frozen, some are canned, put in a can, and the rest can be sold fresh. Yeah, they have to sort them, like these ladies are sorting them. So like the good-looking apples, they're the ones that are gonna go to the store. That's gonna be the apples that you pick at the grocery store. But like if an apple is kind of damaged or lumpy or not real pretty looking, those apples might be set aside to make apple cider or apple juice or used in something else. The vegetables are shipped to stores near and far away for people to buy. Some are even put on a big cargo ship and maybe taken to other countries where they can't grow that type of vegetable. At grocery stores, fresh vegetables are on display. Canned vegetables are on the shelves, and frozen vegetables are found in the freezer section. That's what that's showing. Some people buy fresh vegetables at a farm stand or like a farmer's market. It is fun to pick out what to buy and look at all the delicious vegetables to choose from. Yeah, lots to choose from. So yeah, The Vegetables We Eat by Gail Gibbons. Great story. Now, I'm going to tell you, we're going to do an activity in another video where we're going to eat a plant and we're going to take the concepts that we learned from this vegetable book and we're going to apply them to this activity. And here's what you need. You're going to need broccoli. You're going to need sesame seeds, or not sunflower seeds, not the ones in shells, the shelled kind. So broccoli, sunflower seeds, celery, and carrots and spinach. So you're going to need those 5 things. Okay, broccoli, sunflower seeds, not in the shell, celery, spinach, and carrots. Can you remember that? Yeah, so if your mom or dad goes to the store, or maybe you have some of those things on hand already in your house, in your kitchen, then you can do the activity that's in the next video, eating a plant. We're gonna eat the whole thing, all of it. It's gonna be so much fun.